This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
It's Tuesday, the 6th day of June, D-Day anniversary. Glad to have you here. Thanks a lot for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. This day is always kind of special to me because it trips a memory of a time that I traveled to France with a group of listeners back in 2015. Really special. If you've not had the chance to get to Normandy, do so. If you ever get the chance, I hope you'll take full advantage. We not only did that, but we also took a train ride to Luxembourg and toured the American military cemetery there. Saw the Battle of the Bulge sites in Belgium. Boy, I tell you something, that is a special site, several sites. And you really, when you physically see the venue where these men run ashore, climb cliffs to take on Nazis firing down on them, when you physically see it and you think through what they went through, it takes on all new meaning. These rural French towns that were liberated by American World War II military men who had parachuted in, these towns and these communities all over rural France, they are so celebratory to this day, 70 plus years later, almost 80 years later. They are so happy, still tearful, exuberant. They dress up in old American uniforms, and they have all kinds of parades and reenactments, and they do some simulated jumps over their towns. It really is special. So I couldn't more highly recommend, if ever you want to take a trip that you will never forget for the rest of your life, try to make Normandy, specifically in and around the June 6th. Yeah, January 6th is a different tribute. But make sure you get out there and try that if you ever get a chance. You will never forget it. You'll love it. Coming up today, Michelle Tayfoya, our friend from the Michelle Tayfoya podcast. I thought she would be an outstanding conversation on the culture, where things are headed, women in sports in particular, as she was a woman and a long-tenured sports journalist. What does she think of some of her female colleagues hanging tough out there, being attacked for defending women in women's sports? We'll have that. Some new names jumping into the race. We'll get into that. Contempt of Congress charges against the FBI director. More on the culture front. AOC just lays it out there in open testimony yesterday in the House of Representatives. If you have any doubt as to what I was saying yesterday, and I'm sorry, I will tell you, I'll confess that a little bit of today's show is going to seem redundant. I don't mean to bore you with it, but it dovetails with yesterday's show. There's a woman in the San Francisco Chronicle who is very, very disappointed that Target has caved. And in her estimation, Target caving is taking Satanist stuff off the shelves. Reminder that Target didn't exactly pull all their LGBTQ stuff off their shelves, just the Satan-sympathetic stuff. But I wanted to explore this a little more because I really wanted to make clear, those of us who identify as conservatives, certainly those of us who are Christians and are trying to live peaceably with one another, even if we don't sanction or agree with everyone's lifestyle or their politics, we're not out looking for a fight, and they are. And I want to continue to drive that home in the hopes that maybe some people that are listening to this and haven't really been able to put it to words, I'm hopeful that maybe this conversation will help. So that's on the way. First, let me tell you who will help everybody who calls him: John Ruhlman and usmedicalplan.com. You want to save money on buying health insurance out of your pocket? I don't know if you do. Spend it yourself monthly for your family, for your small business, for your employees. If you're paying monthly premiums, if you're a senior on a fixed income, you know how expensive this can be. And I'm telling you, John Ruhlman knows absolutely the cheapest, best coverage available. Stuff you weren't able to find on your own, stuff that maybe you didn't even know existed, but John does, because he's plugged into over 80 different private sector health insurance companies all over the country. Now listen, it may be that Obamacare the government-run plan is the best plan for you. It may be. And he'll tell you that if that's, the truth. He'll also tell you if your plan is really the most kick-butt plan out there and the cheapest available, he'll tell you that. He's not going to waste a bunch of your time. Just a couple of minutes, he's going to be able to assess, do you have enough insurance? Here's the thing. Maybe you have okay insurance as far as the rates go, but when comes time, God forbid you ever need it, does it cover you? What's worse? More expensive premium that covers you in full if you need it, or a cheaper premium every month that doesn't cover you when you need it? Like, what about being paid if you are in the hospital? There are insurance premiums that do that. You can pay for plans that cover you in full and cut you checks that keep you basically reimbursed as though you're fully employed if you're ever hospitalized. That's stuff for younger people who are healthy. You should really explore if you're well. John and I talk for quite a while at chrisstigall.com if you want to watch my video conversation with him before you call and get a sense of who he is. 877-410-4321. 877-410-4321. usmedicalplan.com. Ever since Elon Musk pinned Matt Walsh's seminal work at the Daily Wire, the film that I do hope you watch called What is a Woman, and not because I have anything to do with it. I have no affiliation or relationship with Matt Walsh or the Daily Wire whatsoever. But like Elon, it's one of those that you really ought to see if you want to get a firm grasp on the Marxist movement, the lie that is transgenderism, the lie that is trying to disfigure and mutilate our children. If you want to see a film that just lays bare the lies of it, the emptiness of it, watch Matt Walsh's film, What is a Woman? Twitter made that available to people for 24 hours to watch for free. And remember, there was a bit of a scuttlebutt. I talked to you about it yesterday between not Elon, but rather Twitter operators, low-level operators who said that it violated some policies, speech not reach, so they were going to let Daily Wire post it, but they were basically going to make sure nobody could see it. Elon himself, who owns the company, got involved and said, No, that's not our policy. He watched the film, was so impressed with it, he said, I'm pinning it to the top of my 180-some million follower account. And now, to date, let me see, I'm looking at the numbers here. Amassed more than 170 million views since being posted on the Daily Wire's Twitter account Thursday. Making it one of the most successful documentaries of all time. Elon himself said that he felt that this was something that everyone should watch. Certainly every parent should watch. What is a Woman? Now blows past 170 million views on Twitter. Winning. This is what winning looks like. Target backing down to backlash over the Pride collection of clothes. For the past years, it's been a silly pastime, writes someone called Stigall Ho at the San Francisco Chronicle. It's been a silly pastime of mine to browse the special LGBT Pride collection at Target. In the lead up to this year's Pride collection, I laughed with friends over the campy Target highlights, a peach-colored T-shirt that said "Live, Laugh, Lesbian," rainbow plates, lesbo plates. I suppose that's perfect for serving rainbow cake. It was funny in the same way a shy message from a relative saying, "Happy Gay Month? Am I doing this right?" It's funny. It's great that they're trying. But then things got grim fast, writes Ms. Ho. Inspired by nationwide anti-LGBT book bannings and a wave of legal and media-driven transphobia, right-wing influencers and other pockets of conservative social media erupted in Isn't it amazing the power we have? Did you know how powerful and influential we were, Fast Eddie? I didn't know that because we can't seem to stop them from spending $4 trillion in a national debt. We don't have that kind of power, I guess.
We own the culture, Chris.
Yeah,
clearly.
we don't seem to have the power to get them to drill more. We don't have the power to make them stop forcing us to buy electric cars. We don't have the power to lower the cost of college. We don't have the power to secure the borders. We don't have the power to come to some sort of conclusion in Ukraine. We seem powerless in every other way, but for some reason we have this magic, incredible power to stop marketing to our children this notion that they can genitally mutilate themselves and become a different gender. Do we have that kind of power, or do you think just normal people, regardless of their politics, have finally said this is a bridge too far? Could it be that?
Yeah, yes. Of course, of the demographic. Think of the people that shop at Twitter, Chris. Come on.
Target, you mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, listen, as much as I would love, and this show does have a vast reach, as much as I would love to believe that shows like this and others of my colleagues in the digital media space and on broadcast media have this kind of power, I'm under no illusion that we're the majority. I'm under no illusion that even mobilized and all of us singing the same song at the exact same time, even if we were all on the same script and song sheet, do I believe all of us locked arm in arm in universal agree? Rush Limbaugh for 30 years was in broadcast. Tucker Carlson still on Fox News. If I believed all of us were united, alive, and locked arm in arm, do I think we could stop Target from selling, or Kohl's from selling gay onesies to babies? Do I think we could stop it alone? I don't. This is why yesterday when I was talking about the culture fight and talking about the politics of doing culture as a campaign strategy, what do you think about it? The answer from Team DeSantis is there's far more people out there than just we Republican voters or conservative-leaning people, or even those of us who identify as Christian, evangelical Christian, Jew, Muslim, those of us who are faith-based, Catholics, whatever you may identify as a faith group. It's not even us. All put together, it's not us. What they're finding is even what you would call working class Democrats, center leftists, moderate Democrats to the extent they exist, and even some committed registered Democrats all draw the line at our children being sexualized. All of us do. All of us draw the line at that. That is still the one thing culturally we all still share in common, believe it or not. So I have to laugh at this San Francisco Chronicle piece when they, inspired by our national book banning wave of right-wing influencers and pockets of conservative social media. This is what's gotten the Pride collection at Target and others in trouble. Posting video after video of themselves tearing down displays, accusing store staff and CEO Brian Cornell of Target of satanic pedophilia. A right-wing rapper released a viral track calling for a boycott. Well, that must have done it. A right-wing rapper calling for a Target boycott must have been the thing, Pastetti. It wasn't just, talk show hosts or social media people or digital content creators, the Daily Wire, Matt Walsh. It was what would she say? A right-wing rapper. And again, no, they never name these people. They pick these bogeymen and they say, that must be them. Or again, could it be that they've pushed so egregiously hard that even people who aren't particularly political go, whoa. Remember when I told you, I think I said this last week or 2 weeks ago, the woman that, I'll just say she's a media colleague. She's not in talk radio, but she's a media colleague. She's one of these, I'd call her one of these Today Show women, for want of a better term. A Hoda Kotb type, a Jenna Bush type, Jenna Hager, whatever. If you ever watched the Today Show, a Savannah Guthrie type, suburban mom type. If they're into politics, they're probably left of center. Not necessarily zealots about their politics, but they certainly vote for Democrats. And they say things like, I'm just for leaving people alone to live their authentic life and live their truths. People that say things like that. You know who I'm talking about.
100%.
They're not bad people. You'd probably have a barbecue with them. But then when social issues come up, cultural issues come up, they say, I'm for people living their truth, and I'm for love. I'm for love and I'm for light. These are the lies they tell themselves to get through the day with some wine. But one of these women who's in media that I know, Christine and I had a hearty chuckle at this. When it came to light that Target had partnered with this Satanist, she wrote on social media, "Now you know that I'm paraphrasing here, I am all for loving and inclusivity and living your best life, and loving who you love is not my business. And I support people being their true, authentic selves, but I must draw the line at Satan," she said. So, she was so proud of her brave and noble stand. This is very controversial, what I'm about to say, and I hate to upset you. If this offends you, I'm sorry, but I'm not one of these, people that goes nuts about LGBTQ Pride Month. I support Pride Month. I wave a rainbow flag. My cousin's gay. My sister's gay. My aunt is gay. My cousin's gay. I went to a gay wedding just last week. In fact, I'm going to get I'm going to become certified to marry gay couples online, I think. I'm such a committed believer. I hope my son is gay. If he is, I will support him. I'm loving. But when I found out that Target partnered with a Satanist, I said no. And if that makes me a bad person, then it does. But I'm sorry. I draw the line at Satan. For this, she feels very good about herself. She thinks she's done something very brave.
It's quite a stand.
But this is what's happening. My point is even that wine-drinking, limp-wristed mom who has really no core convictions but really thinks she's taking a bold stand at Satan, this is what Target's done to themselves. They've alienated themselves from even her. So no, as much as I would love to think it was this show or shows like mine or a right-wing rapper, and all of us linked arm in arm, charging the culture hill, DeSantis, no, it wasn't. Target pushed too far. They went too far. They became so emboldened and so audacious, they even upset the wine moms in the leafy suburbs. So at any rate, this goes on and on to say that ultimately Target has folded and how disappointed they are that Target has folded. Inspired by the nationwide book bannings. That's what they call it now, book banning. And a wave of legal and media-driven transphobia, right-wing influencers, and other pockets of conservative social media erupting in outrage over the Pride collection. Instead of standing up for equality and the rights of its employees, however, Target announced it would be removing items at the center of the most significant confrontational behavior. Unsurprisingly, Target's capitulation to bullying and, to be frank, domestic terrorism only made bad actors more bloodthirsty. Bloodthirsty. Similar anti-Pride boycotts are now planned for North Face, PetSmart, Kohl's, and even Chick-fil-A, which has a charitable foundation that has funneled millions of dollars into anti-LGBT initiatives. And as sad as it is to lose some fun merchandise at Target, what the Target saga has really demonstrated is that while corporate diversity initiatives can be nice gestures, they're largely just gestures. This wishy-washiness when things get tough isn't an allyship anyone can count on. The last thing LGBT community needs right now is fair weather friends. Question, is it the responsibility of any corporate outlet of any kind, whatever their service or product may be, to endorse your personal lifestyle? Is it the responsibility of any corporate entity? Now, look, if a corporate entity like, for instance, Chick-fil-A, they close on Sundays. They keep the Sabbath holy. That is an old biblical principle that the Cathy family still honors. So Chick-fil-A's across the country, for instance, are closed on Sunday. And they have a certain baseline of Christian principles. And for this, many people feel very good about doing business with Chick-fil-A. But does Chick-fil-A regularly, in an overt way, talk about how they celebrate Christians, welcome Christians, come on in for Faith and Family Christian Flag Waving Day. You know, is there a Christian flag hanging in the foyer of your nearby Chick-fil-A? Do you see it slapping people in the face when they walk in? If a gay person or a Satanist came walking in to get a chicken sandwich, are they accosted with merchandise that say, hey, friend, get Jesus? If you go to a Chick-fil-A near you, do you see any of that?
No, nor the crucifix anywhere either.
You're right. That's right. No rosary. No, there's no nuns. There's no priests. There's no clergy in a pulpit. No, you just go in and you get a sandwich. So look, there may be some of us that support it specifically because of their Christian views or what have you. Fine. But my point is there anything overt? No, they serve food. They serve you sandwiches. So people that support the company support it maybe for reasons beyond the sandwich and the food being good or whatever. But it's not like they're not asking you to pledge your allegiance to some cultural or social movement when you come in for a food item. They just want to give you good service and feed you their food and hope you're happy and hope you'll come back. That's not what these people want from places like Target. They want an endorsement of their lifestyle on full display that extends a middle finger to anyone who objects. And if you're not willing to do that, you're a coward. Got it? So it's not enough to just say, we're not hostile to you. You're welcome here. Or even have a display somewhere that says we celebrate Pride. It's this notion that they have to make a very public, there's videos circulating right now of the BlackRock guy. Fink, I think's his name. He gave a public talk. Everybody's sharing this on social media where he basically says, in no uncertain terms, it is our job as an investment firm, BlackRock, one of the biggest investment houses in the world, maybe the biggest. It is our job to change behaviors. It is our job to change the culture. It is our job to make sure companies do what we want politically. It's our job. And this is the attitude. This is the pervasive attitude out there in corporate America. It's not enough to just simply say, gay folks are welcome here, or we recognize Pride Month. You must show your allegiance. You must show you endorse it. And in fact, you must show open hostility to any of your customers who, in fact, may disagree with that point of view. And if anybody stands up and says, hey, listen, when you embrace this, you fly in the face of my values. Your job as a company is to say, sorry, screw you. I care more and I put priority more on their values and their lifestyle than yours. You see, they want companies to choose. These people want corporate America to pledge allegiance to leftist causes and tell you, as a conservative or a Christian, F off. You're not welcome. They actually want bigotry. They want discrimination. They want hostility directed to people that do not share their values. So like Chick-fil-A may not organizationally share the values of the LGBTQ people, they're not actively provoking them when you go in to get a chicken sandwich. There's no displays. There's no cultural lecturing. There's no celebrate. Hey, when you come in, I hope you're a good Christian. Have you been saved? Have you considered Christ? What can I get you? A number one? There's none of that at Chick-fil-A. But that's what they expect Kohl's and Target and Bud Light and pick your company. The left wants them all to wrap their loving arms around left-wing culture and tell anyone, any of us who object to it, F off, you're a bigot. That's their expectation. And if any company falls short of that, they're traitors. They're cowards. They're spineless. I reject that entirely. I reject that entirely through my point of view. I don't expect any company, let me say again, I do not expect any company to openly, brazenly display my values and tell the left to F off. Now, if I happen to know that a company is founded or owned or managed by a group of people who share my values, am I inclined to support it? Yes. But I don't want that company to regularly praise me for being aligned with them and alienate the customer base that doesn't agree with them. You see, that's the difference. Do I believe that most of corporate America is left-leaning? Of course I do. Am I going to drive myself crazy? This is where I disagree with some of my brothers and sisters who are constantly on this boycott everything war. It's exhausting. You'd never buy anything from anyone ever again. You'd never listen to anything. You'd never watch anything. You'd never be able to buy anything again. If you lived your life every day going, who can I shop with that shares my point of view? You couldn't do it. It's impossible. Nor do I expect it, which is the lie about we conservatives. We're not out demanding everyone conform to our way of thinking. We just don't want to be attacked and assaulted and offended and slapped around for hours. But see, that's what the left wants. They demand fealty, a physical pledge of loyalty. They run around to companies and hospitals. Everyone, everywhere is on notice. Remember, silence is violence. You're being quiet? We know what that means. You're on the side of the bigots. Oh, no. I'm not a bigot, says the company scared to death being held hostage. Prove it. Prove you're not a bigot. Put the LGBTQ onesies up in the front of the store display when it hits June. Put it up there in the front for all to see. And I want a banner on your building that says, "We celebrate Pride Month. Welcome in." Okay. Well, then naturally, what does that do? What does that do to the rest of us who don't celebrate Pride Month or don't share those points? Okay, so they acquiesced. They raised their arms in the hostage negotiation. They said, okay, we'll do whatever you want. They lovingly wrap their arms to show an embrace of this movement. And then what happens? Well, the rest of us say, excuse me, that's not me. Are you now publicly branding yourself as the gay store? Because now you've taken this to another level. It's not enough that I know you have, a CEO or you have a fund inside your corporation where you collect for certain funds that I don't agree with, but whatever. I just want to go in and get some Armor All for my car seats and some diapers and some food, and I'm going to leave. It's not enough. No, there's got to be a display in the store that goes, hey, Christian, F off. And anything short of that, they're not happy. So I want to stress to you again that this is not about Pride Month anymore. I really feel like I have to drive this home because I know this is about more than just simply celebrating diversity and embracing your gay son or embracing your neighbor's gay son or whatever. That we are so far beyond that now. This is a full fronter. This is like kneeing you in the groin. This is punching you in the face. This is not about your bigotry or my bigotry. This is about get your mind right and embrace what we embrace, celebrate what we celebrate, and if you don't, you're a bigot. And we will make you display and show your allegiance with us or else. Then Target decided to step it up a notch and partner with a Satanist. Starts literally. And that's when it got so egregious that, even people who would typically be on the side, I shop there because they have a pride flag in there, that lady, even she got offended. And then, again, this is our fault. AOC, this has been floating around on social media. Remember yesterday I said this isn't your brother or your sister or your uncle's Pride Month anymore. This is new. This is amped up. This is next level. What is it? It's cultural Marxism coming for the faith, coming for the church. Don't believe me? Listen to the woman in testimony in the House of Representatives in committee, AOC.
There is nothing holy about rejecting medical care of people, no matter who they are, on the grounds of what their identity is. There is nothing holy about turning someone away from a hospital. There's nothing holy about rejecting a child from a family. There's nothing holy about writing discrimination into the law. And I am tired of communities of faith being weaponized and being mischaracterized because the only time religious freedom is invoked is in the name of bigotry and discrimination. I'm tired of it. It is not up to us. It is not up to us to deny medical care. It is up to us to feed the hungry, to clothe the poor, to protect children, and to love all people as ourselves.
It is up to us to protect children. You sure you want to include that in there? So do you doubt me that this is a spiritual war now? Do you doubt me that we're in a spiritual conflict now? Do you doubt me that the American left is coming after your faith and mine? I don't know what that woman, if she has any, do you think she goes to church? I don't know. Do you think she worships regularly? I have no idea if AOC attends any kind of faith-based service at all. To hear her speak, I kind of doubt it. She's tired of religious freedom being used for bigotry. So, and of course, again, bigotry is to point out the word of God. That God's law says very specific things about this month called Pride Month and all these flags that are being waved and all this pride that's being shown. As so many appropriately point out, pride itself is a named sin in Scripture, actually. The very name of the month is sort of sinful in nature. But whatever, we all sin. My sin's no greater or whatever than any other sin. So it's not about being sanctimonious here when we talk about Pride Month. It's, I don't know, setting aside, let's set aside the sexuality thing and let's say this to Christians would be no different than Adultery Month. Or, I don't know, Coveting Month. Or take any one of the 10 Commandments and give it a month in opposite behavior. Murder Month, Abortion Month. It's all sin. It's all very expressly written out. We don't celebrate sin. We certainly don't have pride in sin. It's an affront to people of faith. That's all. But if you doubt what I'm talking about, listen to the words of AOC. She very expressly, for the first time in a very emboldened way, has now officially said that she's tired of people of faith. That's what she just said. She's getting sick and tired of you people of faith. She's just about had it. And she said it in a House subcommittee hearing. On the record. That's official House testimony. That might mark a first. Maybe. I'm not sure. But that is a very remarkable bit of testimony you just heard from a sitting member of Congress from New York. She's basically declared she's getting sick and tired of people of faith. Rejecting the idea that children can be surgically altered and mutilated to be a different gender. And anything short of embracing that is bigotry and discrimination. And, quote, denying medical care. So I say for a second day, at the risk of being redundant, we are in a very dark time and a deeply spiritual battle. This is bigger than just right-left politics. This is much bigger now. And there are people in this country who are not particularly political and certainly not allies of ours politically who are waking to it. I have the data. I mean, I've heard from people who are literally paid to study it. Moderates, center-left leaning people, even people who are particularly apolitical, they now sense it. This has reached a new tipping point. This has reached a level of aggression that even people who are typically, hey, whatever, bygones, I don't care, I'm not here to judge you. Even those people are now starting to feel like their families are being accosted. So I keep a sharp eye, is all I'm going to say, as this election cycle and this Republican primary carries on, and I have this question on my mind, and I haven't answered it, by the way, but it's why I rattled it around on the show yesterday. I'm going to continue to rattle it around. Have we reached a tipping point where cultural debate and cultural discussion and a cultural fighter may be, in fact, appealing, may, in fact, win an election, may, in fact, win a nomination? Could it be? It used to be not too terribly long ago, oh, that's culture stuff. And even Republicans said, oh, let's keep the cultural issues out. I don't know. I'm not prepared to render a judgment on that yet, but I get the sense the tide is turning here a little bit. because this has gotten so over the top. It's so in your face. I sat down for a conversation with Jason Perrett. He is the founder and financial advisor at Eagle Wealth Planning. Jason came in studio and we talked. The video's at chrisstigall.com. You can watch the entire conversation right now. I wanted to let you hear a little of the conversation because Jason has a passion for providing financial services to clients who are looking to pursue financial independence wherever they may stand. And that was one of the things that I asked him. Jason, do you have a requirement? I mean, is there like a set number? Well, I guess I don't have enough money, or Jason probably only wants to talk to people if they got $1 million in the bank. What is the right number for somebody to reach out and call you? Here's what he told me.
Well, honestly, there's really no such thing in my eyes, because what's important to you and what's important to me and what's important to listener A, B, or C, they're completely different. You know, I've had clients that are in retirement, living on Social Security, and they walk in handing me $1,000 check from their Social Security check because they live such a lifestyle that is, you know, they're perfectly content. Everything's paid off. They have what they want. And then on the other side, I have people who have lots of money who want to take more than what a portfolio can potentially, handle. And so you got to work that, there's education and coaching, there, but there is no set number. They have these rules out there about, if you're 30, you should have X, or 40, you should have X. But I haven't found that to be true.
So let Jason Perrett at Eagle Wealth Planning set goals and help you meet those financial goals. 816-394-8117. Give him a call. It doesn't matter where you live in the country. Watch that whole video at chrisstigall.com. I think you're going to enjoy him. You're going to learn a lot about his perspective. It doesn't matter where you live. If you're not happy with where your money is sitting, or you need to start thinking about it and you don't know where to start, Jason's a great place to start. 816-394-8117. You can email Jason at eaglewealthplanning.com. And again, my whole conversation's at chrisstigall.com. Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a broker-dealer, and a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. At the White House yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs were honored by Joe Biden. Now, I know this is a bit of a sore spot, Eagles fans. But as for me, let me just tell you a little story. The Chiefs won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. And that was just as COVID was on the uptick. So they win that in February, and then we're in full-blown 15 days to slow the spread by March. Trump is still in the White House. Now, as a born and raised Kansas City Chiefs fan, as you know, when that happened, not only was that wildly exciting for me and my family, and I had never seen that in my lifetime. The last time the Chiefs won a Super Bowl prior to that was well before I was born. Like the 4th Super Bowl ever was the last one they'd won prior to that. So I'd never seen it. So the Chiefs beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl, and then COVID. They barely, if you remember that Super Bowl, it was in Miami and barely got it off. That was the last normal big event, and then the world shut down. It's kind of remarkable, actually. If you think about how would we have conducted a Super Bowl during COVID? Somehow we managed to get around that, interestingly. But anyway, by the time, the traditional White House ceremony would have occurred, well, we were a full year into COVID. Now, we had a relationship with the Trump White House, and all I kept thinking was, this would be my opportunity to see something really cool finally. I could go as a member of the media, and I could go to the White House, and I could watch Trump get a Trump Chiefs jersey and the Lombardi Trophy, and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I could see all my Chiefs standing there with Trump at the White House, and I could cover it as a member of the media. How cool is that? And I called, and I worked, and I called, and I worked, and I asked other people that I knew in politics, when are the Chiefs going to the White House for the Super Bowl thing with Trump? Never happened, Fast Eddie. Never happened. It just evaporated, went away into the air, into the ether. There was never a White House ceremony for that Super Bowl winning team. But there was yesterday, except Trump's not there anymore. Ugh. And for you Eagles fans, I suppose it's a little comfort that he spends the first couple of minutes of the White House ceremony reminding everyone that Dr. Jill's a Philly girl, and then starts twisting himself into a pretzel about how many Chiefs are affiliated with the University of Delaware. Like, he spent it was the weirdest White House ceremony. Like, I was like, is this a ceremony for Delaware or the Kansas City Chiefs? But anyway, at one point, Joe Biden claims, ladies and gentlemen, that he was once a professional football player. His words. Yeah, I played professional football at the University of Delaware. He said those words. Here's some of it.
The three of you had one of the same coaches that I had, the great Tubby Raymond, anyway, he's a hell of a coach. I played freshman football at Delaware and ended up below I shouldn't say this, but you had to have a 2.0 to keep going. I had a 1.99. And my mother made me quit, but I went back out my junior year to play in my senior year. And while Tubby was the assistant coach, I played defensive back. And after running the drills in that spring practice, he came over and he said, Biden, and now he kind of coughed when he talked to you like this. Some of them remember this. You run faster backwards than anyone I've ever seen. Well, my political opposition thinks the same thing of me.
All I kept thinking was all of those young athletes standing behind him. What do you think they're thinking, honestly? Are they thinking anything? Are they thinking, what the hell are we doing here? I'm sure they think it's cool they're at the White House, but I'm looking at all these young men who are in their early 20s, a lot of them mid-20s. What do they think they're listening to? Listening to that feels like you've gone to the elder care home and you're visiting some, like, I used to volunteer at church. I would go visit some of the locked-in seniors, take them, literature from church and just visit with them. That's what this reminds me of. Like, I'm just sitting at the bedside of a guy who used to attend my church. I don't really know him, but I'm just volunteering my time to go sit and listen to him. That's what this feels like to me. Here's Biden talking about, I married a Philly girl.
I married a Philly girl. That explains a lot, doesn't it? Fortunately, she is overseas right now in the Middle East. She's a rabid Eagles fan. And on the way the game ended, I might be in for a rough night.
Does he think the game just ended? Or what is he talking about? Anyway, old Andy Reid, Big Red, stepped up to the microphone and said what all of us actually know. I don't think this was a Freudian slip. I think Andy's a conservative. He donates to Republicans. He speaks at Republican functions, if you didn't know that. Big Red's a Republican. Now, I suspect this is truly a slip, but it's funny because it's really true.
To the Donovans, to our staff, the Kansas City Chiefs staff, to the coaches and to the players. What a phenomenal job we were able to put things together this past season. And what a great challenge it is to present ourselves this next year. Like President Obama, doggone. Like President Biden said,
well,
nobody.
Yeah. More truth to that than he knows. Freudian slip there from Big Red. Anyway, sad yesterday because Norma Hunt, who is the son, mother of Clark Hunt. Clark Hunt owns the Kansas City Chiefs. Norma Hunt, his mother, died Sunday at age 85. So the Hunt family, who owns the Kansas City Chiefs, were not able to attend that function at the White House yesterday. They lost the matriarch of that family, Norma Hunt, at age 85. She attended every Super Bowl. She's the only woman to have physically attended every Super Bowl, including the last one, before her death.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's pretty amazing, yeah.
Michelle Tayfoya I spoke with her, and we'll have that conversation coming up a little later. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, Chris, I can't begin to express how proud I am, obviously, of having my daughter there. Also, Dr. Geddes is just a wonderful addition to our practice. He is a classmate of my daughter Alexa's at Temple Dental School, and I have known Jared for about 7 years now. Getting to know Jared over the years, it was my wife Debbie and my daughter Emily who kept telling me, "You have to hire Jared. You have to hire Jared. He's going to be a superstar." Jared went off to USC, did a 1-year residency after his year at Temple, and he came back and he worked for about a year in practice in New Jersey. And after, again, my wife and daughter beating my brains in, I got the message and I hired Jared, and he's been a great addition to Williamsburg Dental.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. This is the kind of thing that would get people committed once upon a time. If you heard someone say this aloud, you'd say, "Bill, is everything all right? Maybe you should take some time off." You ready? CNN's new Heap and Help a Crazy this morning. I posted this on social media. I got a screen grab of it so you could see. I'm not making this up. Here's the new plot at Mar-a-Lago. Trump, in an effort to conceal and hide what he stole, right? Because remember, he stole a bunch of stuff from the White House when he moved back to Mar-a-Lago. He stole a bunch, and he's hiding it, and he didn't want anybody to see all the things that he stole, right? Now, fascinating, before I tell you CNN's theory here and what they think they have uncovered, if you stole a bunch of stuff and you knew the walls were closing in and people wanted to get inside your home to find the stuff you stole, you knew they were coming for it, and you didn't want to get caught with stuff you'd stolen, what would you do with that stuff? Like, if you were trying to hide it, what would you do?
And it still stay intact?
No. You want to destroy it.
Yep, absolutely. It's gone.
So what would you do? I mean, just let's say you have a basement full of stuff you've stolen, and you know people are going to come looking for it, and you don't want to be caught with it, so you're going to destroy it. What would you do? What might you do? What would an idea be?
I'll have a bonfire.
Perfect. You'd burn it maybe, right?
Yeah.
Or if you have means, you're a wealthy guy, perhaps you'd hire a moving service or a dumpster. I don't know. 1-800-JUNK. Would you call somebody, put one of those big dumpsters in your driveway, hire a crew to, hey, throw all this stuff out of my basement, whatever. I don't know. Pay a few guys, pay the kids down the street, load up the truck, take it off to, there are a lot of ways, right? You could get rid of stuff you don't want people to find that you're in possession of. How about this? If you had a swimming pool on your property, would you flood your property?
No.
And if you think I'm making it up, Chiron on CNN this morning. Sources. This is the breaking news at CNN this morning. Sources. Mar-a-Lago worker drained pool and flooded room where surveillance video was stored. So this is, again, you would commit somebody there was a time in this country where if someone said this to you, you know what I think? I think he flooded his own house to keep us from finding what he didn't want us to find in there. And you'd say, flooded? Like, you're suggesting that, and take Trump being the president out of it. Like, let's just talk about your neighbor Jim down the street. Hey, I think Jim stole a bunch of stuff from his office. Did you hear a pipe burst in his house? Or his toilet overflowed? And you hear about his whole basement took on like 2 or 3 feet of water? I think he did that because he had a basement full of papers and stuff he didn't want people to find. You'd go, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. You're saying he purposely water damaged his property to destroy things he didn't want people to see? Wouldn't it be easier to just remove it or burn it? Why would you ruin your own property, flood damage your own property to ruin things that you didn't want people to find? In what universe does that make sense? Honest to God. I mean, you can call Trump a lot of things, but I don't think... How stupid would you have to be? All right, I want you to drain the pool and reroute all the water into the secret room where I keep all the things I don't want people to find. Flood it. What in the world are they alleging? Donald Trump ruined the historic property he bought in the 90s and had restored to the tune of millions and millions of his personal dollars. He destroyed a room in the house with water to keep people from seeing footage of tapes he didn't want discovered. I don't even know what to say about that. I have nothing to offer you. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard, and that's what CNN is serving up this morning to their viewers, Fast Eddie.
Did they go the extra step of bringing in an expert? Like, have Steve talking about the economy, Daniel Turner talking about energy. Did they have, and this is the chief investigator here at CNN to give us more?
Yeah, from the insurance bureau. Speaking of, wildfires, unrelenting storms, and ballooning costs of rebuilding weather-damaged property straining the nation's property insurers, forcing customers to confront dwindling options and higher premiums. State Farm, that's who they should have called for the State Farm General Insurance Company recently stopped accepting new applications for business and personal lines of property and casualty insurance in places like California. Allstate quit writing new policies in the wildfire-prone state last year. The number of Louisiana owners on the Citizens Plan, an option of last resort with high prices, swelled from 3,600 after Hurricane Katrina to about 130,000 today, reflecting the dearth of standard market options. Rates rose by 6.8%. So, yeah, you could bring in some private insurance company expert and say, what? Have you ever seen this before? A guy flood his own house to hide something from investigators? You have to be a special kind of insane. Do you not? Are you telling me a billionaire, trying to hide something from being found by investigators, the best he could come up with is tell employees at his resort, flood the room? Eddie, that is some kind of... I don't even know what to say about that.
That's
Are there people that would believe that? Do you think there are people that watch that and go, that son of a bitch, flooding his own property? How dare he?
I absolutely do.
Do you think there are people that believe that?
Oh, that's smart on his part. I don't like to give Donald Trump credit, but that's smart.
Why didn't I think of that? Honey, get the garden hose. Pump it into the office. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard. I suppose if Mar-a-Lago, God forbid, should catch fire, they're going to claim he said it. Burned it to the ground to keep people from finding the documents he didn't want seen. Wait a minute, he burned his entire property to the ground to keep documents from being hidden? Couldn't he just buy a shredder? No, that would be too obvious.
Oh, that'll be the next thing. Now leftist will Antifa will burn down his house, and then he'll get called in by Garland for destroying evidence.
The next kitchen fire at some function at Mar-a-Lago, they'll say, "Yeah, they were burning documents in the oven in the kitchen in Mar-a-Lago." Oh man, that is something else. All right, I just anyway. Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, just come across. I had this in front of me, and I meant to share it earlier. I'm sorry, but if I may, take a bit of a lap here. If you go to the prediction file. Last week, I predicted what? About Trump's town hall with Hannity. Speaking of Trump, I forgot to mention this. I had this yesterday, and I didn't share it with you. Too much on my mind. I predicted what about Donald Trump going on with Hannity? What would the news be? What would the news media gleefully trumpet? I predicted after that Trump town hall with Hannity on Fox News. You remember, Fast Eddie?
Yep. CNN was going to be... Caitlin Collins and CNN were going to beat Hannity in the ratings on that.
This just in from Mediaite, although it was really in yesterday, not just in. I just forgot to get to it. But anyway, it'll keep. GOP presidential frontrunner and former President Donald Trump landed one of his lowest-rated town hall events in recent years, Thursday night on Fox News. Stick with me, folks. I won't steer you wrong. What did I tell you? Trump's town hall brings in fewer viewers than his CNN town hall. Now, of course, DeSantis people and others want to try to frame this as, well, you see, he's losing his mojo. No, he's not. Fox News and Sean Hannity have lost their mojo. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It's a protest. Nobody wants to tune in to watch Donald Trump be lectured by Sean Hannity. Nobody wants to watch Fox News. Their ratings are in the toilet. And by the way, even so, it was still the number one rated show in the time slot for the evening. And nothing to sneeze at by cable news numbers. The event brought in 2.78 million. But consider that Tucker Carlson on an average night crested 3 million by himself. No Trump. So that's astounding, really. Tucker by himself over 3 million. A town hall with Trump couldn't get to 3. Hannity hosting it. Just 320,000 viewers in the key demographic. Folks, that's awful. That's the real news. The key demographic is 25 people aged 25 to 54. Remember, in the advertising game, those are the people that, again, this is a broad generalization, but always in media, the broad generalization is the demographic age 25 to 54. That's your money demographic. That's where the people who have disposable income and loosely spend it, that's who's targeted. So that's the gold standard for most people who are marketing to ratings. And in that demographic, 320,000 people. Eddie, that's bad for Fox. That's particularly when you're talking about Trump. And again, that is not indicative of Trump's appeal. That is indicative of Fox and Sean Hannity's appeal. And why do I say that? Because Trump's CNN town hall on Caitlin Collins' watch more than doubled that in that key demo. More than doubled. Whoa. So Caitlin Collins and CNN scored 3.31 million, and in the target demo, 781,000. Again, that age 25 to 54, they more than doubled the audience on CNN to Sean's town hall. What did I tell you? I said it was going to happen. Thank me. James Comer. Fast Eddie's getting tired of seeing James Comer, he tells me today. James Comer to start contempt proceedings against FBI Director Wray Thursday. This from NBC News. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer of Kentucky announcing yesterday his panel will start proceedings to hold FBI Director Christopher Wray in contempt of Congress, a move the agency called unwarranted. The FBI briefed Comer and Oversight Committee ranking member Jamie Raskin on Capitol Hill for more than an hour Monday and offered them the chance to review a document that purportedly describes an allegation Joe Biden accepted a bribe as vice president. Speaking to reporters outside the secure briefing site afterward, Comer said the FBI again refused to hand over the unclassified record to the custody of the committee. And we will now initiate contempt of Congress hearings this Thursday. You know, do think about this for a minute. Over on CNN, while we have the House Oversight Committee chairman alleging that the now president took bribes directly from a foreign government, and he has evidence of it. He has a witness, a high-placed witness to straight-up bribery to our current sitting president. CNN is running with a story about how Trump flooded his property to hide tapes from investigators. Some of James Comer from yesterday.
FBI officials confirmed that the unclassified FBI-generated record has not been disproven and is currently being used in an ongoing investigation. The confidential human source who provided information about then Vice President Biden being involved in a criminal bribery scheme is a trusted, highly credible informant who has been used by the FBI for over 10 years and has been paid over 6 figures. These are facts, and no amount of spin and frankly lies from the White House or congressional Democrats can change this information. At the briefing, the FBI again refused to hand over the unclassified record to the custody of the House Oversight Committee, and we will now initiate contempt of Congress hearings this Thursday. Given the severity and complexity of the allegations contained within this record, Congress must investigate further. Americans have lost trust in the FBI's ability to enforce the law impartially and demand answers, transparency, and accountability. The investigation is not dead. This is only the beginning.
Now, you're getting tired of hearing from James Comer in there, you said.
I am. Yep.
How come?
I just, like, how many years have we seen Durham's face? It's just like the still pictures, Durham flow. Oh, the report's coming, it's coming. Same thing with James Comer this past, I guess since January. All right, we're going to get to accountability. And now this report is not dead. All right, James, then let's go.
So you don't believe anything's going to come of this. You just think this is all smoke, no fire.
Yep, I do.
That's what I hear from a lot of people. Where's the accountability? Who's going to be held accountable? That's it. If I could bottle and sell for profit, the one thing I hear more from people that listen to this show than anything else, it's that statement. That question. Where's the accountability? When are people going to be held accountable? I can't answer that. I get that question more than any other I get, and I have no answer for you. The Freedom Caucus, according to The Hill, pumping the brakes on talk of ousting Speaker McCarthy over debt ceiling hike. A spark of initial interest in forcing a vote to remove Kevin McCarthy from his position as Speaker has not caught on in the House Freedom Caucus. Multiple members leaving a Freedom Caucus meeting yesterday, the first gathering of the group since the debt limit bill passed, said there was no discussion of whether any member should make a motion to vacate the chair. Instead, the group heard from the House Ways and Means Committee about an upcoming tax bill, which Smith, who is the chair there, told reporters would come relatively soon. The lack of discussion amounts to pumping the brakes on the idea of a motion to vacate as a whole after the outrage over the debt limit hike. So is that what you mean? A lot of bluster and bravado last week, and then ultimately nothing comes of it?
That's exactly what I mean. Because, again, we've seen Durham smattered everywhere. We get the report, okay, nothing's going to happen. Comer hasn't shut up since January, and it seems like, and if he's reiterating yesterday to the media, just like, this is not dead. It's just like, all right, well, show me how. Show me, like the home state of Missouri.
All right, Garden Staters, your former governor is jumping in the race. Going to make it official today. Chris Christie. You ready? You feeling the Christie fever in there?
Oh, man.
Chris Christie's going to make it official, and they say Mike Pence has also made it official. The former vice president, Mike Pence, is filing to run for president, too. Starting to get crowded out there. Mike Pence has filed to run for president, officially setting up a showdown between the Republican Party's most recent president and vice president as he and former President Trump seek the GOP nomination. Pence has telegraphed for months he would like to enter the race. He has to overcome Trump's strength with the Republican primary electorate. The former vice president is slated to launch his campaign tomorrow at an event in Iowa, which will be followed by a CNN town hall in Des Moines. John Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, has announced this morning he is not going to run. Chris Christie intends to jump in today, and he intends to do it in New Hampshire. So Christie's not launching in Iowa. He's going to launch in New Hampshire. That's where he's going to make his stand. Again, their key is to remember when you're jumping in, it's these early states. It's Iowa, it's New Hampshire, it's South Carolina. You have to have a story coming out of one of the early states. Could you dominate? Could you win one of the early states? That's the story these campaigns have to be able to tell. Question, with all of these people getting in, Pence, Christie, in addition to the entirety of the rest of the field, if you accept that it's Trump and DeSantis as the front runners, which I have no reason to doubt that at the moment, who does this help? Who does this hurt? The more people that get in this race, who does it help? Who does it hurt, do you think? Like they say, Christie is getting in to be nothing but the Trump attack dog, the Trump spoiler. Will that work? I mean, even people who think Andy McCarthy, our great friend and former federal prosecutor, who think he's an ever-Trumper, and I don't actually think he is, but a lot of you do, and whatever, I'm not going to argue with you. He said, well, that makes no sense. If Christie's getting in to be nothing but an attack dog for Trump, that's going to have the opposite effect. It's going to do nothing but help Trump. Agree?
Trump has the largest base by far.
Right.
Absolutely.
So when all these people jump in and they're all fighting for table scraps, who does this hurt between the two presumed frontrunners, Trump and DeSantis? Who's it hurt? Trump or DeSantis?
DeSantis.
I mean, that's traditionally how this works. If there's a challenger to the top dog, when you get a fractious primary slate of candidates, it usually always hurts the runner-up the most, because that runner-up, that second place, you're only Trump loyal or Trump loyal, and they're not going anywhere. We've talked about this. I know everybody understands this. Like, there's nobody on the fence about it. Like, well, I'm probably with Trump, but I don't. There's just, I've yet to meet somebody who says, you know, I'm going to support Trump until one of these people makes the case to talk me out of it. I have never heard a single person say that. I've heard lots of people say, I'm tired of Trump, I'm over Trump, I'm moving on from Trump. I've heard a lot of that. I've never heard anybody say, you could talk me out of Trump. Never heard it. So that means if you're never Trump or not interested in Trump or tired of Trump or over Trump or I voted for Trump but I don't anymore, now you got to decide amongst this slate. And you say, well, probably DeSantis. Well, but soft support or probably DeSantis or I'm thinking DeSantis, that means that any of these people, in theory, could pick that person off from DeSantis, is what that means. So I would think DeSantis is just frustrated as hell that people like Mike Pence are about to do this. I mean, Pompeo had the sense to say, no, thanks. He read the room. He didn't see a path, but I don't know how Pence thinks he has a path. Political people tell me that you don't do this if you don't really see a legitimate path. You're not just strategically doing this to amp your profile or sell books or become a cabinet post or maybe a Veep pick. But if you legitimately see a path, that means someone has set you down in a room and said, hire me, and here's our lane, and here's how I'm going to get you there. There's going to be a lot of money spent and paid to some professional political consultants who are going to collect checks for utter failure, utter just crash and burn candidacies. One more update. Remember the story of the New York truck driver who said during election 2020 he had pallets and pallets of ballots that he drove. Was it from Pennsylvania to New York or New York to Pennsylvania? I think it was from New York to Pennsylvania.
Correct. Yep.
As the Gateway Pundit reported in 2020, election fraud whistleblowers came forward in December following the controversial election, including one who witnessed the shipping of an estimated 144 to 288,000 completed ballots across 3 state lines. New information made public at a press conference by our friend Phil Klein and his Amistad Project, the Thomas More Society. The Amistad Project said they have sworn declarations that state over 300,000 ballots at issue in Arizona, 548,000 ballots in Michigan, 204,000 ballots in Georgia, and 121,000 ballots in Pennsylvania. Ballots at issue. They claim that their evidence reveals multi-state illegal efforts by the United States Postal Service workers to influence the election in at least 3 of the 6 swing states. The whistleblower statements include potentially hundreds of thousands of completed absentee ballots being transported across 3 state lines and a trailer filled with ballots disappearing in Pennsylvania. Phil Klein said, and we'll get him on the show here to give us an update soon, 130,000 to 280,000 completed ballots for the 2020 general election were shipped from Bethpage, New York to Lancaster, PA, where those ballots and the trailer in which they were shipped disappeared. And you remember truck driver Jesse Morgan, who Phil was representing, was present at the press conference and spoke for 9 minutes about this unbelievable ordeal. Morgan was tasked with delivering completed ballots to Pennsylvania from New York State. Again, his testimony. In total, I saw 24 Gaylords, or large cardboard containers of ballots, loaded into my trailer. These Gaylords contained plastic trays. I call them totes, or trays of ballots stacked on top of each other. All the envelopes were the same size. I saw the envelopes had return addresses. They were completed ballots. He went on to say that he sat in Harrisburg for hours, and when he was told to leave, the supervisor at the post office would not give him a slip or an overtime slip so he could just get paid. Jesse said the manager was rude. Testimony revealed the United States Post Office employees were in on the conspiracy to steal votes. That story's not gone away. It's still out there. I get asked about it from time to time. We'll continue to follow it. Well, look, he doesn't take any delight in it, but I have a feeling that somewhere in the corner of Mike's mind, he's a good man who would never say this aloud, but Mike Lindell at MyPillow might feel just a smidge of schadenfreude at the news that Bed Bath & Beyond has gone bankrupt. Yeah, the company that first threw Mike's pillows and products out of their store has now filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Well, I can tell you at MyPillow.com, they're anything but bankrupt. They are fantastic. They are high quality. They are doing well by their customers, and they don't need a retailer like Kohl's or Bed Bath & Beyond. Yes, they sold their products and sold them well until politics got in the way, so Mike just took it all online, and MyPillow.com is roaring. He also sells at his store the My Coffee, which I drink now and love, and I hope you'll go online and order all of it. And I hope you'll use my name, Chris Podcast, when you do it. If you go to Chris Podcast as your promo code when you go to MyPillow.com, Chris Podcast, you'll get up to 80% on a lot on that website. You'll get discounts regardless, but particularly some of the clearance stuff, you'll save ridiculous money. So please use the promo code Chris Podcast when you order, and I do hope you do. We have an entire bed outfitted with MyPillow stuff now. We've got the sheets, we've got the blanket, we've got the pillows. Even Dean has his own MyPillow dog bed. Like I said, I drink the MyPillow, or it's not MyPillow coffee. It's called My Coffee. I keep screwing that up. That would be weird if it was pillow coffee. No, it's coffee, which I sip sometimes while leaning against my pillow. The MyPillow 2.0, the mattress topper, which is like a brand new mattress without paying for a brand new mattress. You know, he'll ship that mattress topper to you for free if you use my promo code Chris Podcast right now. It's covered in that new 2.0 fabric. So are his pillows that keep you cool all night long. He'll send you a second MyPillow 2.0 if you use my promo code Chris Podcast. For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, it's true. He's made me a believer. Dean, my dog, as well. The slippers, the towels, the bed sheets, the pajamas, and so much more. And yes, even the coffee. Go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Chris Podcast and save, or call today 800-932-5056. 800-932-5056. Who needs Bed Bath & Beyond anyway? MyPillow.com, promo code Chris Podcast. Great to catch up with our old friend Michelle Tayfoya. It's been a bit, and boy, there's probably nobody that can speak to the culture wars today as it's bubbled over into media and those who cover media, particularly sports media, like Michelle Tayfoya, former sideline reporter for Sunday Night Football. As you know, Sideline Sanity is her podcast. She's one of my great colleagues, and her podcast has exploded at the Salem Podcast Network. Michelle, congratulations on your success, and good morning.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you. Good morning to you.
I wonder, when you watch the stuff with Sam Ponder over at ESPN, do you feel like, whew, well, there you go. That's exactly why I do what I do now and not what she's do like I used to. What do you feel? A sense of relief or frustration or what?
No, frustration for her. She ought to be able to say what she wants to say without being called a bigot, because what she said is not bigoted. Sam Ponder, Samantha Ponder, for some who may know her that way, married to Christian Ponder, former NFL quarterback, is the host of a number of shows at ESPN, but primarily their Sunday morning NFL show. And she went on Twitter and decided, I'm going to stand up for women's sports. and said that, women's sports should be protected for women, not trans women, but women. And a writer from USA Today called her a bigot. A female writer from USA Today called her a bigot for that. That is such a knee-jerk, shallow response to a very brave stand Sam took. And I messaged Sam, and I don't know her well, but I admire her as being a really good human. And I just said, hey, I stand by you. I've always said this. I'm trying to protect women's sports as well. She's doing it from a place that, now she's got a little bit of risk, but I would like to see other people at ESPN stand up and support her. That's not been happening. That's not been what we've seen over there. And I think there's a lot of fear about upsetting the trans community. I know that there is pressure coming from that community. Even though it's a really small community, they are putting a lot of pressure on a lot of corporations to not say anything that could go against this whole idea of trans women in sports. So, I applaud Sam for taking a stance that is authentically hers. And I think it's disgusting that anyone would call her a bigot. She loves all people. But you know what? I can love a 300-pound wrestler and suggest that they should probably not compete against a 100-pound wrestler because it ain't fair.
Michelle, I'm fascinated, particularly in the NFL, that for years the conversation was about women like yourself. I know you covered it for decades, so you were one of the trailblazers, really, in covering the sport. But I remember vividly the conversations, the cultural fights that existed once upon a time about women in locker rooms with men and things like that. Isn't it interesting now that today the fight is men want to compete as women, and that women would speak up on these venues where they used to fight for access to work, like on ESPN. Now they're being told, shut up and sit down. What a turnabout in just really a couple of decades.
I mean, it really does seem to have happened in the blink of an eye, and this has not been a gradual thing. It just suddenly happened.
Yes.
Like Leah Thomas got in the pool and boom, it was on, you know, and it's really astonishing to me that women are being overshadowed by males who identify as women.
Do you have more leverage, if I may, and I hope it's not an offensive question. Do women in sports journalism have more leverage than a man might in Samantha Ponder's position or yours?
You mean in talking about this topic?
That's right.
Probably. I mean, it's sort of like I'm Hispanic and therefore I can speak to some of those issues with a little bit more quote unquote authority than someone who is Irish. I don't know. But at the same time, I think it's wrong to say that just because you're a man doesn't mean you can't appreciate what women are going through here.
Yes.
I stand up for gay men and gay women. Even though I'm not gay. But in this case, this is a different thing because we're talking about biology here, and we're talking about chromosomes, and we're talking about unfair advantages, and it's just not right. It's so. I do think more women in sports should speak up if they feel compelled to. I don't think anyone should have to if they don't want to. Some people just want to stay out of the political fray and live their lives, and that's fine too. That's up to them. But if people believe it, then they should. This is a movement that needs a little bit of pushback right now because I just think this is. I have a daughter. My dad had 3 of us girls, and he would have done anything to protect us and our ability to compete.
Earnestly, I ask. I don't know how a professionally competitive athletic woman could want for a man to enter her sport and challenge her for awards, money, contracts. But that's where it's headed. It seems suicidal professionally for a woman to want that.
It does. And you see it. And some people are like, oh, this isn't happening. We'll go through the list of examples if you'd like. It's happening in cycling. It's happening in MMA. Sorry about the dog.
He agrees.
He agrees. He's quite vociferous on this topic, and he's a male. So,
what kind of dog, by the way?
He's a mini Labradoodle.
Oh, how
and he's
cute.
about 1 year old, and he sees anything outside, and he thinks he's got to protect the fort. So,
Are those hypoallergenic, as they call it, by the way?
they are. That was why we had to go there. We have some allergy issues in the household. So.
And is it worked out? I've been looking into it
great.
myself.
Doesn't shed a lick.
Really?
Not one. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay.
It's great.
Sidebar.
And he's lots of fun. Sidebar. So I don't even know where we were, except that this is biology, and it's
It's
to me,
costing
it's
women their
pretty
jobs, though, right? It's
that is true too, and costing them places. You've heard from some of these high school girls who have said, I lost my chance at going to state, going to nationals, making a roster because of this, and we thought it was just anecdotal here and there, but I think one is too many.
That's right.
I mean, these women compete. They work hard their entire lives to try to get on a podium, to shave a split second off their swim time or their race time or whatever it is. And to say that a man who now identifies as a woman, and maybe started taking puberty blockers a year ago is fair game. I think that's just wrong. You remember when Billie Jean King and Bobby, help me out, the tennis player, Bobby
Riggs, yeah.
They years ago, they had a promotional thing where they said, all right, let's have the man versus the woman play, because Bobby Riggs was noted, just as sexist. And Billie Jean King said, fine, I'll take you on, let's play some tennis. That was promotional, and that was her idea, and it wasn't for anything except we called it the battle of the sexes back then.
Yeah.
And that was voluntary. I think women really, maybe their best way to make this stop is to stop competing with these people. Now that's a tough thing to do, but if you go into a swim meet and there's Leah Thomas is now going to be forever memorialized as this kind of name, but there's a Leah Thomas in the competition. I think all the other women should step off the deck and say, sorry, nope, we're not doing it.
Yes. And then you're talking about scholarships, and I know, but again, it's going to take boldness probably, right? Because the NCAA is really complicit in this. I mean,
totally.
Professional sports is one thing, but collegiate sports, that gets tougher for younger women, I would guess.
No question. And I mean, I've known so many athletes through the years, as long as I've been doing this, Olympians in particular, I'll think about in this case, because obviously this hasn't hit the NFL, and it never will, because, women are not going to be able to compete in the NFL unless they're, from the East German 1976 whatever team. But,
may I ask on that, if I may, just sidebar for a second?
Yeah.
Because I know that, it's not analogous, but I know that the NFL has tried very hard to make the case, hey, look, we've got women coaches, and hey, look, we've got a women official, and the NFL seems to keep making overtures to women that way. So that's just an observation, really. And there are more women in the front office and so forth, but I think there's an understanding that these are women, like I was a sideline reporter, who can be involved in the sport without getting in there and getting hit. Okay.
I was at a high school game with my daughter, who is a soccer player, and she was watching the field goal unit. And she said, I bet I can outkick that guy. And I said, you might be able to, but what if your snapper fumbles the ball and now you have to block one of those guys? And she said, never mind.
Yeah.
She understood that if you're out there, even as a kicker, you are putting your body on the line in a football game.
Yeah.
So, she gets the difference, and she's 14.
Michelle Tayfoya with us. If you have not heard the podcast yet, you must download it, subscribe so you never miss it at the Salem Podcast Network. It's called Sideline Sanity.
Actually, we changed the name. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. We're now just the Michelle Tayfoya Podcast. Very original, very chic, very avant-garde, but that's it.
Look, your name carries cachet. I get it. Put the name at the top of the masthead, right? That's why you do it. I get it. You're in business. All right, Michelle Tayfoya Podcast. So check it out for sure. On the issue of the business model of the broadcast, because you did it for so long, I would love to pick your brain on the diversification of the way people are going to be able to watch specifically the NFL. I'm hypnotized by the way this is rapidly expanding from, DirecTV and Sunday Ticket to now YouTube TV and Amazon Prime and like, what does this look like eventually, that no one network, no one entity seems to have a corner on the league anymore. I assume that's all upside for the league, but problematic for people who built a business model on it, I would guess.
Right. I think the entire television industry is undergoing this change. I think that what you're seeing is more and more people streaming, watching their phones than anything else, specifically the younger generation. And that's what you need to look at as you're building for the future, right? You have to say, well, where are our customers going? How are they absorbing our content? My kids don't watch TV with us. They don't. They may be in the same room with us, but they're watching something on YouTube or they're streaming.
Yep.
So I think all broadcasters understand that streaming is the future, that they've got to have multiple platforms, all kinds of, they call them verticals and parallels and whatever. I don't know what they call them, but basically they've got to have different ways for people to take in the content. So you're seeing this happen because this is the way people watch now. So yeah, I think, I am so fortunate that I lived during a time where I got to be on NBC Sunday Night Football, and before that, ABC's Monday Night Football, where we were the show to watch in that window, right? And we won Emmys, and we had the primetime top show in primetime for I think 11 straight years. It was great, and it was really good for NBC, and at the time for ABC. It was their kind of something they could promote off of. That was their crown jewel. I think that's all changing, and that's why you see all of these entities now having their streaming channels, Peacock for NBC, all of them. They understand that people are viewing things different ways now, and that includes the NFL.
Well, and people are becoming, I know you've talked about this on your show, the Tucker phenomenon is something that this will be probably studied in broadcast and digital media history. He leaves Fox, their viewership is cut in half in primetime. He's likely to go to partner with Twitter and see record numbers of eyeballs, right?
It's amazing. He put out one statement on Twitter, and the number of after he was let go by Fox, and the number of views he had on for that was astonishing. It was absolutely amazing. So if you can, I know that I've got Twitter and Instagram in front of my eyeballs a lot. And if I see one of those spaces up there and I go, I'd like to join that,
Yep.
I just tap on there, and now I'm in a conversation. I'm watching people talk. I think, we are seeing an unbelievable transformation. I've seen Megyn Kelly talk about this. I've seen others, Dan Bongino, talk about this, that when you're independent and you can just do your show on Rumble or, YouTube or whatever, people can access it anytime. Right? They can decide when they're going to watch it. So the one thing about the NFL, though, that is different, and the NBA and all live sports, you want to watch it as it happens.
Yes.
You don't want to find out about it later unless you're just not interested in that particular game. But people like to watch it live. So, but the fact of the matter is, attention spans are different and kids' habits are different.
Yeah, it's the one thing that I wrestle with myself. I've always loved the broadcast business, as I know you did and did so well for so long. I still do, but I recognize, just as you said, that it's changing. I still want to believe. I think it's right, and I think what you said about the NFL, I think is the same with things like morning radio. I think there will always be a place for live, if you want, local programming.
Yes.
News, weather, stuff happening right now. When something's happening, there's a place to go to find out about it.
I think that's true. But what's interesting also is, and you want to hear it as it's breaking and you want to follow every moment of the developments. Yes, live news is where it's at, no question. But what's interesting is that for some people, if they're just on Twitter, that's where they get their news bulletins.
That's
like,
right.
Oh, that's interesting. And, you can follow it there. And you can be doing that anywhere you want, while you're in line for a coffee, while you're at the grocery store, while you're in your car, all that stuff. But so I think there will always be some level of all of those things, but broadcast television, that's an interesting question. Is it here for the long haul? It certainly is for people who are used to it now. But will my kids in 20, 30 years be watching broadcast television? I don't know, man. I don't have an answer.
Totally apropos of nothing, Michelle Tayfoya, and I'll let you go. The Michelle Tayfoya podcast. Please download it and subscribe. Watch it. Listen to it every single day. Watch it too, by the way, if you're on Rumble and other platforms where you can watch video. Norma Hunt died yesterday. Norma Hunt was the mother of Clark Hunt, the husband of Lamar Hunt. And the Hunt family has a special place in football. I happen to be a Chiefs fan, so I bring it up somewhat selfishly, but also because the Hunts are such a unique family. I just wondered if you had any relationship there or any thoughts.
I think again, it's people don't live forever. It's very tough to
oh my
see
gosh,
this.
she lived forever, I think. I don't know how old she was, in her 90s or something, wasn't she?
Yeah, I'm actually looking it up right now because I want to know. But look,
she attended every Super Bowl. Did you know this about her? She was the only woman, as I understand it, that saw every Super Bowl in person.
She's 85.
Yeah.
And you know, it's that family has so much to do with the history of the AFL, the NFL, the Chiefs, certainly. So yeah, she was a major figure in that family and in that organization. So I send out all my best regards to the entire Hunt family and the Chiefs. She's, you know, my mom is turning 92. So to me, 85 is, you can still keep going.
That's right.
But so, you know, it's sad. And again, condolences to all the Chiefs organization and the Hunt family. It's amazing. Mrs. McCloskey's still living, the Bears matriarch, you know, and she's a remarkable woman as well. Just an absolutely remarkable woman. I had the unbelievable privilege of interviewing her by phone one day, and it was amazing. So yeah, these people are part of the history, part of the fabric of the league.
We Eagles fans also, I should mention, in Philadelphia are taking interest down the street. Washington has a new owner, and he happens to be a big part of the 76ers in Philadelphia, which is a fascinating thing. Josh Harris buying the Commanders. You have any thoughts on ownership changing hands in Washington?
Well, I think it was about time, right?
Yeah.
We kept hearing who is going to buy, you know, the Jeff Bezos rumors, all of these things. And that I think that franchise is a really important one. Obviously because it's in the nation's capital, obviously because of the division that it's in, and it has long been a standout organization, but it really did take its lumps here in the last 5-10 years and needed, I think, new ownership to start fresh. And so we'll see what this new ownership group does and how they handle everything going forward. I think it's exciting for Washington to have new ownership. I think this is a positive move.
It's so cool to talk with you, Michelle, anytime we get a chance. I'm so proud to call you colleague and friend and member of the family in the Salem podcast group.
Right back at you.
I know how much everybody enjoys your show and how explosively popular it's become. I hope everybody downloads the Michelle Tayfoya podcast at the Salem Podcast Network. Great catching up again, Michelle.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Thanks so much.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.